Welcome, everyone, to the Home Service Summit webinar series. Really excited to have Maddie on the show here, and I wanted to talk about some really cool things around franchising and home services, owning a franchise, getting leads for your franchisees, getting leads for your small business. Real quick, my name is Scott Abbott, CEO of 5-Star Franchising, one of the founders of 5-Star Painting, and we own 6 home service brands here at 5-Star Franchising presently, as well as a brand called ProNexis whose mission is to transform the customer experience in the home services industry through voice, text, chat, and instant booking. And so let me go ahead and do an introduction for Maddie. She asked me not to do this. So just so you all know, she's very real and not hoity-toity, even though she is sitting in a velvet chair.
It's the most uncomfortable chair to sit in, just so you know.
We had a great conversation backstage, and she was kind enough to have me on her podcast series in, I believe it's September, and we had a great conversation. And while we were talking, I just realized I need to have her on this show, because I think if you're listening and you've participated in these events, you know how much I love talking home services, and she's got a great background that she can share from. So let me go ahead and do her introduction, and then we'll jump right into the story. So Madeleine Zook is a multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee with upwards of 30 locations in the Philadelphia area. We were just together at the Springboard Convention, and it was awesome event, had tons of fun together. And she was involved in putting together something called the Franchise Master Series, which was enjoyable. I even got a little wolf pin that I put on my suit. I've never worn a pin in my life, so that was kind of fun. Madeleine was formerly the director of brands at Threshold Brands and is currently the founder of Fran Careers, a franchise-focused recruiting firm, director of marketing at NetSertive, and a digital marketing franchise supplier, and the host of the Art of Franchise Marketing podcast. And I learned about this today. She's also the founder of Together She Can, a nationally recognized 501c3 or nonprofit, for less technical term, that works to help homeless communities with hygiene care. So a lot to jump into, but let's start off with, let me just remind everyone, if you're listening in, if this is your first time, there's a chat. Inside that chat, please go ahead and ask any questions you have for either Maddie or I, and I'll make sure we get to those. The first 45 minutes will be me and Maddie just talking about her experience in franchising, and then we'll save the last 15 minutes for your questions. So every hero has an origin story. What's yours, Maddie? Tell us.
Well, I played professional basketball after college, D-League, nothing super cool, and was debating whether or not I should go overseas to play. Realized I'm getting slower. I'm also a female, probably not going to get paid that much, so I should probably go into corporate America. My dad was a exec at Apple. My mom was a school teacher, so I had kind of best of both worlds in terms of growing up. So I started out, as most people do, executive assistant, refilling the coffee, setting the meetings, botching conference call, dial-ins, that whole 9 yards. At the time, I also co-owned a basketball facility for kids to learn. My partner in that knew someone who worked at Made Pro franchise, and I kid you not, Scott, I got a LinkedIn message asking me to come in and, interview for Made Pro in their marketing role. I literally said, and sorry for anyone who's offended by swearing, but I literally said, I don't want to be a fucking maid. Like, what is this? Sure enough, phone call or two later, and plus 10 years, we've had a decades-long career on the franchisor side. Met my husband, who was a Made Pro franchisee at the time. Now we have 3 kids. We own 4 different brands, and taking my hand at the supplier side. So that is my origin story. It's thank God I responded to that LinkedIn, because who knows, I might still be refilling coffee at this point.
Well, you now have the unique distinction of being the only person to have sworn on my podcast. Congratulations.
It probably won't be the last one.
It's that East Coast vibe, right? It's okay. We love it. I love it.
Philly, so we're a-holes over here. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks, Angelique. It sure won't be the last time. Yeah, I think you're right. You're probably right. So, thank you for sharing that. And I want to talk about your nonprofit, because you mentioned this earlier, and I think it kind of speaks to who you are. So, if you don't mind, you mentioned you wrote a 501c for Dummies book. tell us about that. What does your nonprofit do? And how did you get into it?
So a lot of people when they, hear that bio, they go, "Oh my God, how does she have time for all of this?" Let me preface it by saying I'm really good at marketing. I'm terrible at operations. Okay. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So we're traveling a lot. I was traveling a lot. MadePro's in the heart of Boston. So you see a lot of homeless people when I'm walking into the office. Hey, Dave, not every day I can buy them lunch. Not every day do I have, money to give them. So one day I was cleaning out my apartment and I was like, oh, I have all of these wonderful, free, nice hotel toiletries type stuff, or the lotion your aunt gives you for Christmas. And you're like, I don't want to smell like a cherry blossom. Thanks so much. I was like, what do I do with this? I don't want to throw it out. Like my friends don't need it. Let me package these up and maybe hand them out to people who could use them. So I started doing that, and they were very happily accepted. Like a lot of times you might get, I don't need your money, I don't need your food, but everyone had loved this idea. So I started giving them to my friends, and then sooner rather than later, people started donating money, of course, because marketing. I made a website, we had social media, and it grew very, very fast. And I think it's because we fell in the niche of, let me take the stuff you don't need and give it to someone who does. Very little financial overhead. To this day, 100% of what comes in goes to the community.
I love that.
Yeah. And that said, I was doing this and we grew so fast. We had partnerships with the Intercontinental, the Hilton, Sephora, Bombas. At one point, I had in my garage 10,000 mini shampoo bottles. Because I was like, I am not an ops person. I don't know how to now scale this. So, fast forward, I think we're going on 6 or 7 years. We've given out about 50,000 hygiene gift bags. We've got 2 locations, Boston and Philly. And proud to say that it's still doing good, even as my responsibilities as a person and a mom has grown. I think the most incredible thing I see from the marketing side is, honestly, I haven't touched the site or social media since COVID, because obviously COVID, did a number on what little ops we had. I say every day we probably get 3 to 4 form fills of people saying, how can I donate? How can I get involved? And that's no marketing, no anything. To this day, I'm like, I don't know where all this traffic is coming from, but people want to do good out there. And a lot of times they just need a platform. So I bought the How to Make a 501c3 for Dummies book and hired LegalZoom. And, now I hope I'm doing everything right by the IRS. I think I am, but.
That is awesome. It's really incredible. Every business has some garage story. So I'm glad to hear your garage is full of shampoo bottles, and that, 50,000 people is a lot of people to be helping, or a lot of, and not just that, to have brands get behind it is amazing. Do you actually pull this into any of your franchise brands you own? Like, do you make it part of what your messaging is?
Usually with Together She Can, we've kept it pretty separate. There's times that we've done a campaign, if for MadePro, if you want to leave out a bunch of your extra toiletries, our pros will take it, and we can give you a 501c3 receipt. To be honest, in full transparency, because our MadePros are pretty big, it's a huge lift to do that. We have a room in the basement that is literally all shampoos. Bombas donates 40,000 socks with us every year. So occasionally we'll do it on a whim to see if we can help out our clients. But for Together She Can, we're pretty well stocked. But our franchises typically have their own philanthropic arm. MadePro does the Cleaning with a Reason, so cleaning for people who have cancer. Same, our other brands as well. So we pretty much try to lean into those.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. You've mentioned you've got a few brands you own. You mentioned MadePro, and it's quite large. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, so we have we just acquired one of the locations near us. We just bought it, so I think we're in the top. Let's say top 5 of the MadePro now, if anything, for sure, top 10. We're doing, I didn't ask my husband this when I ran down to get numbers, but I think we're doing 3 million annually across all of those locations. So they're pretty healthy. I think MadePro has close to 400 locations now. They're the most veteran brand of Threshold. And then we also have a patio patrol, or a couple of them, which is mosquito and tick, trying to go a little bit more into general pest. I don't know how well that's going to go because my husband does not do mice. So good luck for him. I built that brand. It was originally, I think I have a pin here. It was originally FlyFo, and it was mosquito and tick. And I remember sitting in the conference room with the exec team going, well, what the hell is Mosquito Shield doing? Because it's clearly working, and just like us getting pissed at one another because we couldn't figure it out. Anyways, yeah, we took on that brand, and it's in about its 5th or 6th season. And it wasn't until season 4 that we hit break even. So now it's very healthy. We're completely absentee, which is very, very nice. Men in Kilts is in its 3rd season. We've got a couple of those. That's exterior.
Is that window washing?
Yep. And everybody wears the kilt. I will say the first time my husband put on a kilt, he jumps on the trampoline, one of those big ass trampolines in the back, and goes, "You got to try this. It's so freeing." I was like, "A skirt?" So, there's something to be said for the kilt, but yes, we have a couple of those, and those that do really well. And then our I think again, that might just be at break even because we're about 3 seasons now. And I will, in full transparency, say that as we have grown in units and brands, the break even time has grown because we have less time to really get on the ground and do guerrilla marketing as much as it's needed. And we can get into this later. I think that there's a gap in the playbooks for franchising where we say we want multi-unit owners, we want multi-brand owners, but there isn't a lot of coaching for what happens if you already have 3 grown children and then you bring in a nanny a newborn, and you say you have to give that newborn 100% of your time, and you're like, it can't have 3 other kids. So there's definitely a gap there because we're certainly, so with Closetivity, which is our new one, with Leo's going to kill me, home-based franchise group. We own almost all of Pennsylvania. I sweethearted my way into that deal. But the problem is we just don't have time to go and guerrilla market. And with the way that lead costs, which we're going to get into, are trending, we also don't have the money to say we're going to hire people to go yard signs and door knocks. So where that delta has grown as we've grown with brands and locations of, okay, how do we expedite this? Not, fast track to success, but we're consistently seeing a longer break even time. And that really gets old after a while, where you're like, I know I'm an entrepreneur. I know I'm in investment mode, but I don't want to be in investment mode anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what
you hit on a few things that are really valuable. And I want to just restate, right? You have maid services, window cleaning, pest control, mosquito control, tick control, and closets. And of the 4 brands, maid is really kind of your anchor tenant.
Yeah, that's
right.
It's almost 20 years old now. It's
one making all the money.
Yep.
You've got you just broke even last year with your mosquito control brand or location. You're break even now for your window concept.
Barely.
And then your 4th one, which you just took on, is now brand new and probably. And you mentioned that it took you about 4 years or so to break even. I'm curious if you were to look at, because Made Pro, right? Is that right? Made Pro, your husband owned it for 20 years. Is that right?
I think he's on year 14 now. 15.
Year 14.
Yeah.
Did he start it? Was he the first one in? Did he start?
He was not. I think he was. So Made Pro, I think at this time is now 32 years old. So it was pretty healthy when he came in. He was one of the earlier ones. But he was.
Sorry. What I meant to say is, did he start the location from scratch that he bought, or did he buy someone else's location?
Yeah. He bought that one from scratch, grew it to 4 or 5 locations, and then recently we've acquired locations around us of owners just like, I want to retire, or I'm not able to finance my territory anymore. Do you want to come and take it over?
So what I hear you saying is there's a couple of messages I think that are interlaced in this discussion so far. One, it's taking longer for business to get profitable, and you might attribute some of that to the fact that it's not your own sole business. You've got other businesses, so there's some distractions there. You've also kind of hinted at the fact that the cost of acquiring a customer are moving up, right? And if I look at those 4 concepts you mentioned, well, I'm going to talk about just 3 of them because closetivity probably is a pretty high average job size, but maid is recurring service, probably a couple $100 a service, right? Mosquitoes probably, $700, $800 a month or a year, for the service with 4 or 5 or 6 different sprays. Once again, lower cost per service. Men in kilts, I'm assuming, is probably similar, like $300 or $400 per window cleaning.
It's a little bit higher, but around there. Bless you. Yeah, it's definitely more than the pest and the home service, but much less than the custom built-ins.
But they're all recurring in nature. All those businesses those top first 3 are all recurring. Closetivity is not. I would assume it's like a one and done kind of thing. See you in 8-10 years if you buy a new home. Yeah. But the other 3 are all recurring, and those, well, they probably have higher margins as well, I'm presuming. Just know what I know about recurring services in those industries. I would imagine that that one of the reasons why it's taking longer to get profitable is because you're stacking, $200, $300 bills, not $5,000, $6,000 bills, right? But once you get there, you have a great opportunity in terms of recurring revenue and having a business that you said you can step away from. You're in a position where you don't have to operate as much. It runs kind of on its own. Right. So I'd like you to spend some time, if you don't mind, on your role at NetSertive. You're the VP of marketing there, and NetServe does, well, tell us what does NetServe do and who do they help?
Yeah, so I'm the director of marketing, and I only say that because my boss, Erin, who's the VP, is a badass, and I love her. NetSertive, we were actually using them in my own franchise locations. They are a localized digital marketing firm. So what they do is they've built a software that you can bring on your locations at scale. They localize them with your own phone number, URL, creative, you name it. And then on the back end, it's constantly moving money around based on where you put the channel to make sure it's optimizing for consumer trends, which I thought was great. The reason I'm working for them now is because they had reached out. I've talked to them a couple times as on the owner side, and they said, we really want to learn more about franchising. Would you consider coming on board? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna enter the dark side. But sure enough, I did, and I think it's really important to understand, because I understood the Zor and the Z side, to have that other aspect of the supplier side as well. The reason I'm so passionate about that is because a lot of times I see in franchising, whether they're doing it internally or an agency is trying to retrofit itself into the franchise space, there's just so many campaigns they have to run at one time. And there's just no way that people are, even if you have the best customer service in the world, there's not enough time in the day to go in and make sure every hour of every day you're looking at 400 plus campaigns. And I know, truthfully, I saw that at Threshold, and we had a kind of 2-person team. I loved the guys, but I would see the guy taking a nice 2-hour nap at lunch, and, or just kind of onboarding people. And as long as, there wasn't anything broken, it was good. And I didn't really think anything of it until it was my money on the table when, I got married and those were our locations that we were paying for. And I said, there's got to be something better, because then you get on a call and you can see this guy has logged into my account 2 times. Why am I paying an absorbent amount of money for management when there's not much managing there? So I wanted to take the autopilot out of the digital marketing side. And NetSertive has certainly done that through their AI technology, but they've also have a layered in support, which I thought was super important. And continuing to start educating franchisors about that today. A lot of it is there's a season, and as I'm sure as the CEO here, is there are times where you need a vendor. There's times where you can do it internally, and those might flip-flop back and forth. But either way, you want to ensure that the fundamentals and expectations are set correctly so that you can hold, whether it's yourselves, your vendors, or your franchisees, accountable, because everyone knows as soon as shit starts to go downhill, we're not getting enough leads. It's marketing's fault. Oh, it's the franchisor's fault. Well, no, that's the franchisee's fault. And I think that the more that we can really allocate each responsibility along the path of acquisition to a fundamental pillar, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, no question. And I totally understand why you'd want it. And I think maybe on that note, what percentage of leads do you think come from online marketing for the brand you own or the brand you service at NetSertive?
So NetSertive is all digital marketing. So all of
Yep.
their leads are digital. So do you mean like from for my locations, what percentage
Yeah.
of leads are digital? Yeah. So I would say it it varies. And I'll circle back just a little bit. When we only had Made Pro, there was a time where we could send out a direct mailer. We could spend $3,000 and know without a shadow of a doubt it's going to take $124 to get a new customer. And people in the franchising space still expect that. They expect a direct spend. And what am I going to get for a client now? You and I both know that that's no longer the case. There's a lot of nurturing. There's a lot of brand awareness that has to go into it. So I would say for Made Pro now, it's probably outside of referrals. If you just take referrals out of that percentage, which is, I don't know, maybe 10%, I would say 100% are digital. Very rarely are we getting leads from, maybe 98%, maybe 2% are from a co-op mailer, a Val pack. But we really just don't put that money into direct mail anymore as much as it was working since COVID. I haven't really seen it move the needle. In patio patrol, as you know, with Mosquito Shield, we have to front load all of that marketing spend into the beginning of the season and then drip it out later. So we're putting like $40,000, and I would say 60% is digital. The other 40% is those mailers, direct mailers, yard signs, home show sponsorships, really early, and then obviously the digital just kind of follows it throughout. Men in kilts, same thing with Made Pro. I'd say 98, and then 2% on a mailer. And yard signs, a lot of that is just word of mouth because you've got good looking guys in kilts out, so we get a lot of the neighbors kind of see what's going on. And then closetivity, it just
does it work, by the way? Putting good looking guys in kilts on ladders gets the phone to ring?
Listen, we literally have like nursing homes that are like, can you come Fridays? And the ladies have tea outside the big bay window they want the guys to wash. So it doesn't always work that they're attractive, but
oh my gosh. I don't know why that slays me.
Kilt. I could see you in a kilt. I can see it.
Yeah.
Your wife will thank you later. No.
Yeah.
For positivity, we just, quite frankly, we're just not getting any friggin' leads. We've tried digital, we've tried chat, we've tried guerrilla marketing, yard signs, word of mouth. I actually had a call with the franchisor last week, and I told you I'd be an open book on this. I had the call with the franchisor, had the director of marketing on, and I said, so-and-so, this is Madeleine. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm a Zor, I'm a Z, I'm a digital marketing supplier. The shit's not working. So if you don't want me to close the doors to an entire state, we need to figure this out. Is there trends that are working in other franchisees? And this is a newer umbrella brand. They don't have great SEO. They're not investing in the marketing. It's just all kind of brand dev growth at this point. And the reason I signed on is I was like, that's fine. I don't need the support outside of kind of community involvement in terms of what's working. But the problem is it went too far the other way. So now if someone types in closetivity, I swear to you, closetivity.com does not come up. So if you don't have a franchisor that's investing in at least that, it's a problem. So that counteracting with we're brand new, not a lot of brand awareness. I think our cost per new client right now, I kid you not, is probably like $700, $800 on top of we're constantly investing, $10,000, $5,000 every month to just, streamline the operations, get it out there. So we're certainly not new to the brand awareness spend and the marketing spend, but when your cost per lead, not even client, is $700, it adds up.
That's pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, I think I want to restate something. From the brands that we own at 5-Star, we've owned 6. 3 of our brands are what I would call B2C. So we're dealing with, consumers. And the other 3 brands, two of those brands are pretty much B2B. It's we get referrals from contractors effectively in the restoration space. Sure. And then the other brand is referrals mainly, and then there is some B2C work as well. So it's a hybrid model. But you mentioned 98% lead flow from online. I think for us, it's between 80 and 90%, I'd say, across the board. Not that direct mail is dead. I think you mentioned this before. For brands where concentration is really critical, like if you want to, mosquito and tick, for example, right? Nothing's better than being in one neighborhood and owning that one neighborhood.
Yes.
That route density drives profitability. I'm assuming it's the same in Made. Driving time can kill profitability in recurring service type models. Same thing with window cleaning, and we're no different. It's pretty much our business as well. But there's clearly a strong case for the fact that online marketing is mission critical. And someone asked earlier what the marketing agency was. It's NetSertive is where Madeleine works. What are you seeing in terms of cost? You just said that you're paying $700 a lead for causativity. Are you seeing for the other brands that are more established, like Made Pro? Are you seeing the cost per lead go up there? Is NetSertive seeing that happening across the board for other franchise brands? Like, maybe talk to us about that.
Yeah. So what's fun is NetSertive is a Patio Patrol is their client, and so is Mosquito Shield. And while they don't clearly share data, they were able to say that mosquito control lead gen was just down for across the board. And, we can attribute that to weather, I would hope. I was talking to Michael Morehouse, your president over there, about that. I would say for Made Pro, it has consistently gone up every year. Because I think consumers, one, there's a lot of noise out there. It's a lot easier to market and market efficiently with kind of the tools that Meta and Google allows you to do. I'm sure if you're in the home cleaning space, I was talking to Angela over at Buzz Franchise Brands, and she said, no, there's this company called Dazzling Cleaning, and they're offering cleans for $39, and they're all over social media. I go, they're independents, but all it takes is a decent budget, and Google and Meta is going to automate a really great campaign for you. So, we're seeing a lot of competitive there. So along with people needing to see you 11 times, there is definitely some sort of, in this last year, consumer trend of home services. The purchases and the interest have gone down. I am not sure if that is because it was so high during COVID that it's kind of bounced a little too low and that's going to level out, or if this is, recession related. I'm sure it's a mix of all things, but we have consistently seen lead costs go up, which we anticipate with inflation, but it's hard when now we can't just send out a direct mailer and say, all right, we got to get 50 clients. What's 124 times 50? Send that out. Now it's consistently having to invest a portion and not really being able to attribute what is coming from brand awareness and what is getting us our leads. While yes, Google and your organic traffic's the best, they certainly didn't see you there to start with. So being able to allocate has always been tricky, but I think it's getting even more tricky now, and prices are still going to increase. It's interesting because with Made Pro, Patio Patrol, and Men in Kilts, right now we're across the board. It's about $250 to get a new client in.
It's the cost of an acquisition of a customer, $250. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the cost per lead is. When we were backstage, I literally ran downstairs and asked my husband, I was like, what's our cost per acquisition? So I don't know what the cost per leads are. The closings are pretty, the conversion ratio to the lead is pretty high. So, but yeah, that's about the cost now. And we're continuing to see that go up. I will say with Made Pro, Patio Patrol and Men in Kilts are seasonal, right? So you're really just trying to get that loyalty so that you're at least rolling over 70, 80% of those clients year over year and then getting more clients. With Made Pro, what we have seen a drastic increase in is attrition. And we're not quite sure why. Obviously, there are standards that are continuing to increase in terms of customer service and what people expect these days. But in terms of the employees we see, the training, the support system, none of that has really changed. If anything, it's grown. So we're not sure what we can attribute the attrition to. Directly, I'm not sure if it's because customers just have a shorter life cycle with brands. I'm not sure if they're looking for more transactional and less recurring, but that's hurting because in order for us to make back, you know, the money we've marketed them to, and then to actually turn a profit, we're hoping that client stays with us at minimum a year. If anything, we're hoping 2-3 years. So when we're seeing that those attrition costs go up, we haven't quite been able to put our thumb on where the hole in the leaky bucket is. So again, I think it's partially, consumer neediness and high maintenance, and also, is there something that we're missing the mark on? Is it pricing? Is it, consistency? I'm not sure, but all of that we typically deliver on with franchising. So yeah, as much as franchising grows, I mean, independents have always been, knocking at our door. So yeah, that's kind of
it's worth diving into this for just a little bit. And I can pull from some experience we have at ProNexis. But before I do, I want to answer Nick's question. He asked, when you talk about how many leads you get from traditional and digital, are you both trying and including both search and display as well as social media within digital? And the answer for me, Nick, is that yes. When I think about digital, I'm referring to all social, all online, pay-per-click, paid advertising on social, anything, the local business listings as well. If they come from online, that's how we track it. And we do try and make sure that we're tracking that specific to that category. It's worth noting that on the conversion rate, I'll just talk about how well or what to expect or what we're seeing on B2C business that's under $1,000 per job. And so we kind of put that in one category. So if we can sell what we're dealing with over the phone, so mosquito pest control is an example, like pool cleaning, maid services, we do that. We sell those over the phone. It tends to be about 50 to 60% of the people that call in will book. Mm-hmm. and give you the credit card, and they're sold, and then it gets sent to the franchisee to service. If it's a, it's a business that requires it's a remodel or a home improvement project, and it's over $1,000 and it requires an estimate, it's about 85 to 95% of the people that call in get scheduled for an in-home estimate. And then from there, depending on the job size, on some of our projects, they're $10,000 plus. Mm-hmm. And so you can expect that conversion rate to drop down to 30%. And other projects, if they're $3,000 or $4,000, then your conversion rate goes up to 35, 40%. So it's kind of the range we've seen as an average across average franchisees. There's always exceptions. I've got some franchisees closing at 65% in the remodel space, and they're really great at sales, and they're leveraging tools and financing tools and selling payments, not the price, and so forth. And then similarly, you can have promotions that are happening for mosquito and tick, or for other services like that. And if you have a killer offer and it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing, then your conversion rate goes up to 70, 80%. So there's some numbers there. Maddie mentioned the cost of leads going up, and you mentioned that specifically $250 you're spending right now to acquire a customer. Mm-hmm. At Made Pro, right? Or is that, were we talking at
Made Pro? Patio Patrol and Bedding Kilts. It's about the same. Yeah.
Which I actually think is pretty decent. To acquire a customer at $250 is, given that the lifetime value of the customer is probably in the thousands, $3,000 or $4,000. I think that sounds quite reasonable. I will say that what we have seen, and I've done a lot of research online on this as well to see if it's not just us in home services, is that it's about a 20% on average annual increase in costs of advertising. Now, your cost of acquisition changes based on your ability to close, like we talked about, right? And offers can help impact that. But there's no question that Google needs to increase their stock price for its shareholders. And the only way to do that is to charge more for clicks. And there's definitely this trend. There's a time 7, 8, 9 years ago where being online in home services was kind of unique to the brands that were kind of forward thinking. Mm-hmm. And, when you're competing against smaller operators, didn't have a budget to spend online and so forth, the cost per click was quite low because the demand for clicks was lower. But today, in 2023, I got to believe if you're in business and home services, you are doing advertising online, which means the demand for eyeballs have gone up. And so the costs are going to continue to go up, and that's just not going to change. So in saying all of that, I pose the question, what do we do about it? In your view, what in net sort of your experience in net sort of what should a home service brand and franchisor or a franchisee be doing to deal with the fact that costs just keep going up? Like, do we just raise our prices? Is that what we do? Or is there other strategies that you've employed or you would recommend to deal with that?
So I often say, right away when I'm talking to a franchisee or a franchisor, I do not care if you like social media or hate it. I don't care if you like Google or you hate it. I don't care if you're going to tell me it doesn't work and you've tried to make it work. If you are not on digital, you are now not only not benefiting your business, you are now hurting your business because Google allows for competitive keywords. So if you are not betting on your own keywords and, for a basketball term, boxing out of your lane in your brand and your industry, then someone else, usually a competitor, is going to come in and do that. So if I type in Scott Abbott and Scott Abbott is not bidding on his own name, then Madeleine Zook's going to come up and say, gotcha. Because a lot of times it's not the loyalty to the brand, it's they see someone because they have a need. And your job as the brand is to sell them on why you. So you have to be there when they're ready. On top of that, I'm really, really tired of people telling me, well, Facebook doesn't work. Social doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work for anyone unless you're selling like a $3 from China sweater. I was like, what it does do though, is it's going to get you the views. You have to be where people are. We talked about it used to be people need to see you 7-8 times before they even make a move in terms of the first yes, the first click, the first whatever. Now it's 11. Okay, so we've exceeded the attention span of a goldfish, or this is not a word, de-seeded. I don't know. We're even smaller than a goldfish in terms of attention span. So if you want to efficiently get your eyeballs on your brand so that when they are ready, when they are thinking, then you have to be where they are. And that's where people are spending their time. Now, obviously the avenues can differ from Pinterest to TikTok, but we're for sake of efficiency, we're talking Facebook, Instagram. Google, again, you have to be there. And I tell people this as a whole, your digital presence, whether it's your Google, my business page, which is linked to your website, which is linked to your socials, that is your digital storefront. If you're at a brick and mortar, you get this. Your storefront has to be pristine and in a great location and ready for when customers walk in. If you're a mobile business, you don't get this as much because you're not used to having to maintain a brick and mortar. But in essence, like this is your store. It's just digital. And so if you're not using Google and you're not using Meta, that is like having a brick and mortar where the lights are turned off at 2:00 on a Tuesday. Someone's walking in to use you and, maybe the door's locked or it's unlocked and there's no, you walk in and the employee's like, what do you want? Like people are like, hard pass. I'm leaving. That is what you're doing if you're not going to invest in Google and Meta. If you do invest and you make your digital storefront look good and you're ready for the clicks, i.e. the people walking in your door, and you can consider a form or a conversion, a salesperson really taking you through the process, giving you that first impression, first experience, then of course you're going to see your brand grow. Of course, people are going to start spreading the word. But if they have if they can't find you or have a negative first impression, that's going to now harm you. Because lead costs are going up, I think that there's two things that we have to understand. Yes, we do need to do price increases. That scares a shit ton of people. It scares me too. You're going to lose clients. You're going to have the clients that you're like, what the hell? The responsibility of the franchisor is to, one, I always say, test it if you haven't done it, or if you're going to do a big one or you haven't done one in a region, find a franchisee that's like, I'm down. We're one of the bigger ones in Pennsylvania. So if someone's like, we need to test a price increase, you're due, would you do that with us? And let us know with the messaging, with how we implement it, with the prices, how your region reacts. Then we can coach better on that for maybe smaller franchisees that can't afford to lose 10, 20, if we botch it, 50 customers. So I always say, don't just give them the reins and say, go, try to coach to it as much as possible. And then also, I think we need to stop shying away from the kind of scarcity mindset of franchisees were only anticipated investing this much monthly or in this much into a franchise brand. No, those costs need to go up. And if that's going to scare some people away in terms of what they want to invest in their marketing or what they want to invest with the brand, then maybe that's not the right person. So I think it's just accepting that costs are going to go up. Your variable costs are going to, or excuse me, your costs are going to go up. And I think the variable there is different outlets are going to kind of take precedent over or take priority over one another. It's going to remain digital. Obviously, the more you can guerrilla market, go in, kiss some babies, shake some hands, the better you're going to be. But ultimately, you can't change the cost of what Google, LinkedIn, Meta is doing in the background. So you need to forecast a reasonable spend, forecast the inflation, and then do you cut costs on the back end for that? I think a lot of times in home services, especially, we say, great, we need a customer for MaidPro that's going to stay and be worth a couple $1,000s. Well, we have a very high turnover employee too. So how do we make sure that we're providing a good experience where that employee also stays with us? Because training an employee is a lot more of an investment than bringing on a new client. So you just have to be mindful of where you're cutting costs. If you have to cut costs, and it should never be on the marketing side because you just won't be able to keep up. No matter what way you spin it, slow and steady doesn't always win the race.
It sounds like, and I would agree with the statement that digital marketing is table stakes. You no longer have it's no longer an option. If you want to be in the space, you gotta do it. The question becomes, how do I deal with rising costs, and what can I do with the campaigns to get something unique that maybe gets more attraction, right? How do you increase your click-through rates and your conversion rates and so forth? And I would just remind any listeners that if you own a business in franchising and home services, or you're a franchisor, if you truly understand the cost of acquiring a customer, that you might want to get creative around offering things to customers that are kind of an offer they could never say no to, like a free spray, for example, or a free cleaning, for example. Yeah, that costs you $100 to clean a house, right? That's your cost of goods sold. But if you're spending, as you mentioned earlier with Causativity, $700 to acquire a customer, well, offering something that is so unique that may cost you something of value to the customer could increase your click-through rates and your conversion rates substantially.
I often say that if you're going to advertise, you have to have one of the 3 E's. And this goes for content or your ads as well. It has to be entertaining, it has to be educational, or it needs to be an exclusive. If your franchisees are out there posting MaidPro home cleaning, here's my phone number, I'm not calling that number. But if you're posting, here's all the viruses your kids brought home in the first week of school, here's now an offer because it's back to school week and now you can call and book right away. Who do you think's going to win there? So, to your point, offering an exclusive, if you're not always offering promotions, make sure whatever you're putting out there is a value add to your client. I think oftentimes we're too close to our brands and we're so great. Why aren't people using us? People are inherently selfish. My husband took the last bagel today. This is bullshit. But I've just to show you, like, it doesn't matter how close you are to the brand. It doesn't matter, it could be your neighbor that you want to use your service. Like, you have to continue to make sure that your value prop is not only in front of them, but aligns with what their needs are.
I'll share this one other point, and then if you have any questions you have from those who are watching or listening, feel free to throw those in the chat, and I'll make sure we get to those in a few minutes. I do want to spend some time on your time at Threshold Brands, though, so we're going to get into that in a second. I'm a fisherman. I don't know if you knew this or not. I spend a lot of time fishing, way too much time, in fact. And there's one thing I learned about fishing is that if there's a fly hatch that's happening, and you are throwing fish something they're not looking for, they won't take it. Okay, so if I'm on the Provo River and I'm put a grasshopper under my fly rod and I'm throwing it into the water, and it's not seasons for grasshopper, I'm not going to catch anything. But if there's a cicada hatch happening and I throw a cicada fly out, I will catch lots of trout. And there's an analogy and direct correlation between that and how humans operate. You just mentioned it. There's a back to school thing happening. Moms and dads are really busy putting kids back into school. They don't want to clean their house.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spring cleaning happening in March and April, right?
Mm-hmm.
When do you should be tying your advertising to the demand cycle in your business. It's like when I had a painting company, the worst time to ever throw an ad or a direct mail campaign was anytime near a Christmas tree or a turkey. Those two things would destroy your marketing returns. And so you got to make sure you put the money where the demand's at and you don't waste your money when the demand's not there. Some people think, well, I'm slow November, December, and January, so I'll increase my marketing, try and even out my demand or my business. No. You need to be doing all your marketing in February, March, and April, where they've in painting anyway. I'm going to talk painting for a second. When they've paid off their credit card, it's been February, Christmas is done, and they're now in a position where they're thinking about spring cleaning and they want to fix their house, they want to enjoy the outdoors, whatever that may be. That is when you do the big campaigns. So aligning your marketing dollars to when the demand is happening. And even with our mosquito brand, we have a director of marketing there who literally sits there in markets and looks at weather patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And if he knows that after water comes, it's like 10 days later, mosquitoes hatch.
Mm-hmm.
And so he literally will do campaigns and bump spend on the geography based on the weather. And if you're thinking that way, you're going to have a better return on your dollars. And even though the costs are going up, you can increase your return on your investment. So those are some things to think about. Now let's jump into your time at Threshold. I'm sure you had a lot of great experiences there and learned a lot. Mm-hmm. Remind us, what did you do at Threshold Brands? Who is Threshold Brands? How many brands do they have? Kind of give us the background there.
Yeah, so it started out as Made Pro. The founders were Mark Kaczynski and Richard Sparacchio, and they truly were the examples of good franchising. You know, very much like yourself, they cared about the owners, they cared about unit size. They only wanted to grow in a scalable and correct way. While I was there, I was first brought on for franchise development marketing. Very quickly, you know, got my feet wet because, as you know, in a small, it's not even a small home office. I think it was like 50 people, but very open layout. You get used to what franchisees are going through on a daily basis. As much as I'm in marketing, I'm seeing, you know, Emily over there on the phone with new franchisees, the operations, the whole 9 yards. So, you know, I got a lot of experience in all the realms of how, you know, a franchise Z and Zor life cycle comes together. After I think 5 or 6 years, you know, they were big enough that they wanted to make a move. They decided that they wanted to build a franchise brand. So we settled on Mosquito and Tick. I was very much on the ground floor of concept branding. You know, I think the founder and I had 900 texts a day of names that we needed to check for trademarking. And what about this industry? What about that industry? So that was really great to see what it takes to make a brand work. After that, we acquired Men in Kilts from the original owners. First, it was the U.S. rights, and then it was the Canadian rights, it was nice to see a different, I don't have to build it, but now I have to shift it. I have to talk to the owners of why you should trust me with your baby. And then after that, we were acquired by Riverside. I can't remember if it was a couple acquisitions and then that, but either way, right before COVID happened, we were acquired. And I was, you know, early 20s when I was working there. So naively, I thought that this would never end. I mean, I have such good relationships with the franchise community. I mean, I met my husband, my franchisor spoke at my wedding. You know, there's a lot of relationships there that you think are never going to go anywhere, right? We were FBR number 2, number 3, repeatedly for franchisee satisfaction. You know, and we were such a brand of and it's so cliche, I hate the word, but we were truly a family culture, and we were starting to integrate the other brands into that. Once Riverside came on, it was then, you know, and they were transparent at first. They said, we're going to hold you for hopefully 5 years. We're going to bring on a bunch of brands. Ideally, we'll get to 20 in the next 2 or 3 years. And then we're going to flip it. The founders said that they were going to be really involved. And I don't know if that's what they truly believed, or if that was a little bit of smoke and mirrors, but they certainly were not anymore. And I think that there's there's multiple, but in my experience, there's 2 sides of the private equity I would say big, the big private equity ones, not the smaller ones that have a little bit more of a boutique feel. But the Rourke Capitals, the Riversides, they're either gonna buy you and flip you, or they're gonna hold on to you, build it up over a long period of time, buy a lot of support around you, and then sell the entire kind of empire, if you will. It takes a little bit longer, but it's the idea is there. The problem when doing that, and in their defense, it was during COVID. Not that they were hurting financially, but that's neither here nor
Mm-hmm.
there. They and I still to this day, I don't want to burn bridges, and I think that they have genuinely good people there. I know a lot of people know Irene. She's great. I love her. She's still a mentor to me to this day. But I think they're very good intentions. They're good people, but the complexity in which taking on a franchisor has a lot of it's very delicate. So instead of coming in and really understanding what each role in the home office did, what each brand needed on a man front, they stripped a lot of the support. They stripped a lot of the cushion, I guess you could say. And while that might have ruffled some feathers, you know, you could make a claim for that. Sure, they're cutting the fat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But when they did that, they didn't take into account what they needed to do. When it's kind of like Jenga. You take one or two bricks out, nothing falls. They didn't take into account when you take a brick out and things start to wobble, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go in and replace it quick enough, or understand what do I need to do to make it not wobble. I'm like queen of the metaphors today. Um, and in doing so, I think the whole structure fell. And while there is still a pile of bricks, that sounds so bad. But there's still, the foundations are there. I mean, they hired a CEO that was not a good culture fit, and they had to bring in the old CEO, and then they hired another CEO, and the whole C-suite has been turned over a couple times, and the
Wow.
franchise can certainly pause. And I think what the gist of this is while all of that can be built back up with money and personnel, what can't be built back up is your trust with your franchisees. I will validate for any one of my franchisors till the cows come home. I won't lie for them. I'll be very realistic. If Closetivity calls me, I'm like, look, buddy, like threefold that investment, then you'll be fine. But,
Mm-hmm.
benefits, here's the cons. I don't even think Made Pro is on a list anymore for franchisee satisfaction because it got destroyed. I mean,
Oh, wow.
I will not validate. I won't validate. I said, I don't believe that you can bring in new franchisees right now and have them be in a happy culture. I think they can get back there, but it's going to take a lot of time and trust. And it wasn't only them stripping out support and not rehiring, but it was not a lot of listening. It was a lot of oversight, and just too many balls got dropped too many times that they really lost a core piece of what makes a franchise go, and that is the community. It got very fragmented, and a lot of the brands were just now siloed kind of on their own. And it's a shame because we put so much work into these franchises, and we certainly never want to see them fail. I think this is a bump in the road for them, but I also believe that the only way back now is investment. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily what private equity wants to hear. So I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
they'll be able to flip it. I think they're up to 11 or 12 brands there. And there's some people that work there that are very near and dear to my heart. One of the brand presidents is Kayla Sina. We started on the same day at Made Pro. She was the executive assistant, and now she's the brand president. Um,
No way.
yeah, my kids call her Aunt Kiki. And so I think that while there is still good people there, picking up a structure that has tumbled is much more of an investment and undertaking than maybe the forefront of keeping maybe a bigger spend, not trimming so much fat, and just seeing it from the ground up. And that's, ultimately that's why I left Threshold. I think they were on a salary freeze. They were bringing on 11
Mm-hmm.
brands and said, market each of these 11 brands separately, but we're not bringing in 11 people. I'm
Mm-hmm.
financially motivated if you couldn't tell. So I was like, mm-mm. And I just had no interest in making richer people more rich. Franchising puts food on the table for my kids. And no matter if I'm a Zor, Z supplier, advisor, you name it, I will never give out a piece of advice or speak to something that could, or sell something that could put that at risk for anyone, Zor or Z,
Yeah.
because I know the stakes that franchising has.
I think you hit on a few things I want to restate. One of my favorite sayings in franchising is that trust is earned in inches and lost in miles.
Mm-hmm.
And in franchising, it's true in all relationships, but in franchising, it is really true. Like you just hit it on the head, right? Like Made Pro had one of the top ranking validation brands in home service franchising, and they've fallen off the list. And that is in short order. It doesn't take much for that to happen. It can turn really quickly. And I think it's worth spending some time on. Private equity can add value. It can also take away value. And there is a big distinction between understanding a business through the lens of the books and through P&Ls and through spreadsheets and so forth, which they're highly capable. Finance people are highly, highly capable at forecasting and budgeting, and they add a lot of value to people who know how to operate. Because there's operators, and we deal with a lot more squishy things, relationships, people, and creating momentum behind a brand and energy. And you mentioned earlier, nothing can kill a brand faster than validation going the wrong direction, right? Like you see all of franchise development just come to a halt. Mm-hmm. And that is the engine of all future growth. It's that next generation that's coming in and pushing the brand forward. And so I think you did a good job articulating a challenging circumstance. And it's a reminder, I think, to anyone that's in this business that whether you're private equity backed or not, right? There's lessons learned here. Supporting franchisees correctly is critical. If you want validation, you want to see that they get value. And that is a great reminder to us all that always support your franchisees. Make sure that they you never forget that they are, in fact, the reason why you're in business. It's their business success that drives your business success. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I have a few minutes left before we end. Maybe if you don't mind, I know you're great at, for those of you that don't follow Maddie, Madeleine, however you want to name her, you need to on LinkedIn. She's fantastic at letting the world know about all the different events that are happening in franchising. We were just together at Springboard in Philadelphia. There's the IFA coming up in February next year. There's the Unconference in March in Park City, which I've gone to, I think, every single one for the last 17 years because it involves snowboarding. But any big events that you'd recommend, Maddie, that we should be going to if you're in franchising, home service franchising?
Yeah, I think that there are so many events. I've created a Google Calendar on LinkedIn that you can add to your calendar, and it will just have every franchise event, webinar to in person. So that seemed to help people. Obviously, the IFA is the Super Bowl. It can be a lot. It can be a big investment. It's a great learning, but I always say when you're going to go to a conference, what's your ROI from there? Is it you're looking for brands to acquire? Is it you need to functionally find out some takeaways for XYZ? Really try to put parameters around that. If you're a supplier, how many new meetings do you want, or how many people do you want to meet? Put parameters around that. Obviously, the IFA puts on some great ones. They've got the emerging conference coming up, which is great for emerging. They've got leadership and development, which is later I think that's in November, which will be pretty good. There is a new one coming out in February called Franchise Assembly. It's Leanne Caruso and Michael Hyam, and they have been in the franchise space forever. They're putting on a franchise development and marketing one, and I believe it's in Texas. I think Dallas or Houston, one of those two. I'm New England, whatever. Or I guess
it's in Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas.
Dawn and Angela both informed us. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. So I would recommend that one. We're going to have a lot of really frank talk tracks around that. So I would check that out. IFA as well. And to be honest, I would just start reaching out to other brands. That's kind of what I've told NetSertive when I come on, I said, I'm not going to sell shit. But what I will do is I'll create a community of brands that can talk to one another. I think the biggest thing that I have heard that hits home in my millions of metaphors is, one, a franchisor is really just a big franchisee. Don't forget that you're still learning. You're still technically in their shoes. You have to remind the franchisee that while right, you have had triplets 900 times, right? So reminding them that it is a one-to-many on their end. And a lot of these conferences can help kind of coach your way through that. And then also, I've had my experiences of, well, what is Mosquito Shield doing, Maddie? What is our competitor doing? I'm like, Mark at the time was our CEO. I don't know, Mark. Do you want me to call them and be like, "Ooh, hey, I'm your competitor. What are you doing?" I want to create a community where you can do that. And I feel like we're going that way. So just don't be afraid to reach out, and a lot of these webinars, a lot of these in-person meetings, or even virtual, provide a lot more value than we've seen in the past, because a lot of times people are putting that gate down and realizing that, the more we share, the more we franchising benefits. And for me, it's franchising or bust. So, I think that's
awesome.
That's awesome. Where we're going.
Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for joining us. And thank you everyone else for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Guys.
Hey everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and more importantly, that it brings some value in building your home services business. If you'd like to access more of this amazing content, like and subscribe below. If you'd like to be part of our live recordings and get involved with the speakers and myself, click the subscribe to calendar button or the link in the description to get updates to future events.